What should the Cowboys do with the number 10 overall pick in this year's NFL draft? Kevin Gray, this is the gray area right here on 105.3 The Fan. Appreciate everyone subscribing to the 105.3 The Fan YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel also at Kevin Gray Sports. And you can also subscribe to Jeff Kavanaugh's channel on YouTube and Dalton Miller for all of our YouTube content for 105.3 The Fan. The Cowboys have a decision to make at the number 10 overall selection in this year's NFL draft. Do they potentially go and address the offensive line, where you've got a guy in Tyron Smith who at 30 years of age has dealt with significant injuries throughout his career? Do you potentially address it by looking at a Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern or a Penei Sewell out of Oregon? Or do you go on the defensive side of the football, which I think that's where the Cowboys should go when looking at potentially one of these corners if they are available? I'm talking about the Jaycee Horns of the world, the Patrick Surtains of the world, and also guys like Caleb Farley out of Virginia Tech to go alongside a guy in Trevon Diggs, who you think you have found as one of the two corners that will start for you next season given his production this past year with 3 interceptions. Or do you possibly take a look at, if all of those corners are gone within the top 9 picks before you get to number 10 with the Dallas Cowboys, and let's say a guy like Kyle Pitts is available, the star tight end / receiver / playmaker, whatever you want to call Kyle Pitts. He's a really good football player out of the University of Florida. And do you continue to strengthen the overall strength of your football team, which is this offense? I know that you've got Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz, who played well in his coming in for Blake Jarwin, having over 600 yards receiving and playing really well at the tight end position. But at the same time, it may be hard to pass up on that dynamic of a playmaker to add alongside a returning Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, and also CeeDee Lamb at the wide receiver position, not to mention the do everything back in terms of Tony Pollard. So there's a lot of ways that the Cowboys could go with this number 10 overall pick. But when you start looking at what happened with this team last year, a team that gave up a franchise record 473 points, was 31st in the NFL in terms of its rushing defense. Defense should be the name of the game if you have the ability to address it in this year's NFL draft, not just in the first round, but with multiple picks throughout the second, third, and fourth round to be able to take multiple shots at the dartboard in order to try and find corners that you can be able to put into this particular secondary. And especially when you start thinking about the back end in terms of the safety position. In Dan Quinn's defense, you need a cover 3 type safety who can play center field and be able to patrol that center field area in the backfield so that teams aren't taking those deep shots against that cover 3, cover 1 defense. And we know that Dan Quinn has had players in the past, such as an Earl Thomas and others, who have been able to play that center field position. So the Cowboys have a myriad of issues to address, especially on the defensive side of the football. But when you get to that number 10 overall pick and you start thinking about the needs of the Dallas Cowboys, it may be a little more unique than what you may think on the surface based on the struggles that the defense had a season ago. That's when you turn to the offensive side of the football, especially on the offensive line. You think that La'el Collins will be able to come back from his hip surgery and be able to be a full go come 2021. Zach Martin, coming off a calf injury and a concussion, should be good to go at the right guard position. But the questions that we start to have at the left tackle position with your man Tyron Smith, as I mentioned, at 30 years of age, coming off of neck surgery, and has had significant injuries throughout his career. Yes, on most years you can count on him to play 12 to 14 games. But as you start thinking about the long-term future, especially when you're thinking about Dak Prescott in that backfield, who you think you're going to give a long-term contract to, it may be time to start to think about how you address the most important position in protecting the blind side of Dak Prescott. And do you potentially get younger and potentially move Tyron Smith on so that you can begin the refortifying of that offensive line with a younger, more talented player, given his age, if we're talking about guys like Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern or Penei Sewell out of Oregon? That's going to be an interesting decision that the Cowboys are going to have to make, because the amount of decisions that they will have to address in terms of their defense won't just be only with the number 10 overall pick if they decide to go the defensive route. They will need to obviously address a lot of these things with respect to their free agency decisions and how they will need to try to ball on a budget with respect to the shrinking salary cap that they will be working with in 2021. But the number 10 overall pick may be its most important selection in several years for the Dallas Cowboys, even going back to 2016 when they decided to take Ezekiel Elliott over Jalen Ramsey with the number 4 overall pick. This pick will be a foundational pick on either side of the football, whether you're establishing a new foundation in terms of the rebuilt secondary with Trevon Diggs and maybe a Patrick Surtain or a Caleb Farley or a Jaycee Horn opposite one Trevon Diggs, or if you decide to refortify the foundation of your offensive line with a guy in Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater. This is going to be a pick that's going to help either Dan Quinn or Kellen Moore on this offense be able to refortify the strengths or even strengthen what we think could be a strength going into this upcoming season with the corner play, given what you saw from Trevon Diggs. Because for me, you got to go defense with this pick. Now, look, if Kyle Pitts is there and the corners such as Jaycee Horn, Patrick Surtain, Caleb Farley, those guys are gone, and even the offensive tackles are gone in Sewell and also Rashawn Slater, you might as well strengthen the offense, get better, even better on the offensive side of the football, and give Dak Prescott yet another weapon to be able to work with in terms of this offense going into this upcoming season, because there's nothing more that the NFL likes to see these days, especially on the offensive side of the football, when you're able to create several mismatches on a football field. The ability for Kellen Moore to play with all of these toys that he would have on the offensive side of the football with the returning Dak Prescott and creating the amount of mismatches that he would be able to do by putting Kyle Pitts on the football field, that is a scary proposition for any defense to have to try and tackle, especially when you think about the 3 wide receivers, the running backs that we think will be better in 2021 with a 4-5 offensive line, and of course what Dak Prescott was doing, throwing for over 1,800 yards in 4+ games before, of course, breaking that ankle in week number 5. But defensively, this is where this team will need to at least get into the top 15 to make themselves relevant, not just winning the NFC East, but potentially making the playoffs and trying to at least get to the NFC Championship game. Because we've seen from teams over the last several years, as long as you have a defense that's within the top 15 with a really good offense, you can find yourself making a deep playoff run or even winning Super Bowls. Hello, Kansas City. So that is where I would be if I were the Dallas Cowboys, if those players are available, especially those corners that we're talking about in Surtain, who is probably the best technical corner in this draft. Obviously, you have the athleticism with a guy in Caleb Farley and the playmaking ability of a Jaycee Horn. But we will see how the Cowboys decide to address the number 10 overall pick. But for my money, this is one of the most important selections that the Cowboys have made in probably the last 10 years, other than obviously what they did in 2016, because how they decide to address this draft pick going forward will tell us a lot about the mentality of this team trying to address its needs versus trying to buy more toys for the offensive side of the football. But again, my money says go defense, go get you a corner, go get opposite side of Trevon Diggs, and then start to address your safety concerns, not only within the draft, but also in free agency with you guys, what you see out there with guys like Malik Hooker and others. Can the Cowboys ball on a budget? But if Kyle Pitts is there at number 10, you never know. You might take a look at it. Let us know in the comments, what do you think the Cowboys should do with the number 10 overall pick? Like the video, subscribe to 105 Through the Fan on YouTube, and make sure you comment and let us know who you think the Cowboys should select at number 10. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports, and be sure to subscribe to the 105 Through the Fan YouTube channel. Also subscribe to Kevin Gray Sports on YouTube, Jeff Kavanaugh on YouTube, and Dalton Miller also on YouTube. We'll talk to you later. Peace.